I don't think you get how big a deal Royal Hippogryph Knights are, and we're going to need to talk about that. See, not only are they paragons of chivalry who gained superhuman powers after drinking from a magic cup and then tamed a savage flying monster, but unlike the vast majority of units in Total War Warhammer, they never actually existed in the tabletop game.
Britannia's last tabletop army list was written in 6th edition way back in 2004, and doesn't contain nearly enough units to stretch across Total War's many technology tiers. There's no such thing, for instance, as elite infantry, nor a flashy endgame centerpiece like a Hellpit Abomination or a steam tank. To flesh them out in Total War Warhammer's Britannia update, developer Creative Assembly had to get creative. That involved negotiating with Warhammer publisher Games Workshop about what would be appropriate.
Sometimes, you know, it's us presenting our ideas to them and going, well, look, I think this is needed to sort of fit this faction and give it this certain kind of, you know, tool to work with, and they're quite happy that, you know, we present that and go forward with that. There's definitely interplay between both of us at times. Certain factions might get that more than others, one way or the other, but yeah, we like to lead with what we feel is appropriate for good gameplay. What they are is very receptive in that we'll say, oh, we kind of need this for X reason, and they'll go, no, that's not quite, but we understand you have a problem here, let's try and solve it collaboratively.
It helps that, according to lead character artist Baj Singh,
because we look at units that already exist, and not every unit is in the army book. You might have some units that are described in lore that might not actually exist as a mini, so we'll speak to Games Workshop and go, hey, we can do this, and it's not going to be expensive for us because we're basically taking this unit and putting it on this mount. Are you okay with that?
Now, with respect to Royal Hippogryph Knights, I quote from page 191 of my 8th edition rulebook: "The Bretonian cavalry is unstoppable on the open field, but it is also invariably in control of the skies above. Formations of knights mounted upon hippogriffs and pegasi will challenge and engage the skyborn lords of the enemy force before diving down to impale the rank and file of the foe."
Whereas a griffin is half bird, half lion, a hippogriff is half bird, half horse, and accordingly they've been Bretonia's special mount ever since King Luan Leon Kerr saddled one up in 5th edition.
Well, on the visual point of view, it's iconic in a sense. So you got, you know, the Britannians have got like their own version of a kind of a really nice mount for their kind of lord to ride there. So it's just already, it's like a differentiator, especially between the empires. In Britannia, you've got something that's slightly different and to get more kind of flavour. So, you know, on the kind of art perspective, it's just kind of like, it's a nice, iconic kind of thing to have. I mean, and plus it's interesting to kind of animate, and it's an interesting creature as well.
Interesting, but challenging.
Thing with the hippogriff, it's what is it? It's a bird and half of it's a horse. And so when it came to kind of animating creatures like that, it's like, well, what is it? You got to make sure you kind of animate in a way that it's not kind of starts to become schizophrenic, and it starts kind of like going, oh, it's a bird in this animation, now it's a horse in there.
Given that Games Workshop has never had to figure out how its miniatures move, Creative Assembly had a good amount of license to do so, and dialogue on that subject went fairly smoothly. With hippogriffs, in contrast to, say, the Hellpit Abomination, they could also take inspiration from other places.
Obviously we reference, you know, films, you know, I think Harry Potter's got hippogriffs in there, and so so something, if it relates to something that people think, oh, that's how a hippogriff moves, it's kind of like, yeah, they're kind of like, yeah, that's fine.
After their update, Britannia became one of Total War Warhammer's strongest aerial armies. Despite the justification that exists for this in the lore, this did raise a few eyebrows, partly because it was achieved by making a whole regular unit out of what had previously been a mount for powerful characters.
So we did want to give them some air superiority because of the Pegasus Knights that they already had. And we knew that the hippogriffs for the lords as a mount option was pretty strong. So we were very conscious that this was going to sway that. Of course, this is before even High Elves, but it was a conscious decision to give them that boost.
In the tabletop game, the stats of the character riding the mount are applied in combat, which implies that they're making an equal contribution to the battle. And this always bothered me, given that most of these monsters tower well above head height. Hippogriffs, griffins, dragons. Can the character riding them even reach?
Well, and those things there, we made the call, is actually the mount that actually does the attacking. Yeah, so it's just like it's like kind of a prop. They don't actually really see something. It gives an indication that they can use it, but really they kind of it's the Hippogryph that does the kind of the attacks. Also, it's kind of its talons and things. It's trying to claw people across.
I really hope there's a scrapped animation of a knight leaning down from a hippogriff's neck to poke at something with a lance, but Alston says it was obvious from the beginning that this was a non-starter.
Just the size and things, and you know, it's just like, well, you got certain things, maybe not for the lance, it's fine, but riders with swords can never reach other characters. So it was a kind of like judgment call for the mounts of a certain size, they do the attack if they can do. Yeah.
Plus also considering what looks the most impressive. Where do you want to focus your time? Do you want to focus it on something that's going to be seen at this scale or something that's going to be seen at this scale? It's like if they have the same impact in terms of design specs, but you can get it to look more visually impressive for the same amount of time, why not go for the most impressive looking thing?
And no one would deny that Royal Hippogryph Knights are pretty impressive. They're imperious in their idle animation, majestic as they fly, and fierce as they attack. The defining tactic of Britannia on the battlefield is that of the thunderous cavalry charge, an image with universal appeal, reaching well beyond Warhammer into dozens of other fantasy and historical action stories.
But Hippogryph Knights add an appropriately fantastical and lore-sensitive aerial dimension to that image. Accordingly, they're an excellent centerpiece unit for a faction that never actually got one on the tabletop. And, speaking as a Britannia player since the tabletop game's 5th edition, that comes much better late than never. And that's about it for another one of our Total War Warhammer creature features. Give us a like if you found that interesting, check out our other unit spotlights on the channel, and subscribe for much more Total War and PC gaming goodness. Until we see you next time, thanks very much for watching, and take care.